command post. This is Viper. Hostile threat down. Over. Post, we copy your traffic. Over.
Call it in. It's time to go.
Tree, 675, 30 miles an hour, 3 mil lead. 3/4 value.
I see it, Donnie. See it.
Fire when ready.
They don't know where we are, or they might get lucky.
Requested you.
Do something.
He's under the floor. You don't need to kill me. It was them. It was them.
I am a United States Senator.
Exactly.
Hit it. His name up. Ready? Yeah. Go.
Amid lush green mountains, 2 soldiers were stationed to eliminate enemy forces. Their names were Bob Lee Swagger and Donnie Fenn. Bob, a renowned sniper, had a flawless record, thanks to his unparalleled ability to account for every geographic element before taking a shot.
Larger hostile forces approaching your sector Bravo.
Unbeknownst to them, the enemy deployed a helicopter to attack from above. Lacking any prior intelligence about the helicopter, Bob and Donnie tried to report it to their base, but their calls went unanswered. Donnie, realizing their odds against the helicopter were slim, urged Bob to retreat. However, Bob insisted on attempting to shoot it down. Tragically, the helicopter rained bullets on them before Bob could act, resulting in Donnie's gruesome death right before Bob's eyes. Three years later, Bob chose early retirement from his sniper career and retreated to live a secluded life in the mountains.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Meanwhile, in a government office in Virginia, a colonel named Isaac was seeking a sniper to help safeguard the president during an upcoming outdoor speech. Concerned about a potential assassination attempt, Isaac reached out to a Russian contact who informed him about a legendary sniper who had recently retired. After reviewing Bob's file, Isaac wasted no time tracking him down. When Isaac arrived at Bob's remote home, he explained his mission. He wanted Bob to devise an assassination plan for the president, not to execute it, but to anticipate and thwart a potential sniper strategy. Bob questioned why he was chosen. Isaac revealed that the government had been compromised, leaving him no choice but to enlist external help. Initially, Bob refused, unwilling to deal with government affairs again, But when Isaac emphasized the nation's dire need for his expertise, Bob recalled his oath of loyalty and Donnie's death. He asked for time to consider. The next day, Bob analyzed the venue for the president's speech, calculating distances, layouts, and risks. Realizing the site's high vulnerability to sniper attacks, Bob decided to accept the mission and flew to the United States to begin his work. Bob drafted potential sniper strategies for killing the president. Impressed by Bob's precise calculations, Isaac expressed relief at choosing the right man. He then assigned Bob to oversee security during the president's speech and tasked him with identifying the potential assassin. On the day of the speech, Bob and Isaac monitored the area from an old building. A police officer named Timon was assigned to assist Bob. Using his expertise, Bob calculated wind speed, temperature, distance, and timing to predict when a sniper might fire. Just as he was about to share his findings with Isaac, Bob uncovered a shocking truth. Isaac had betrayed him. Isaac intended to frame Bob for the president's assassination. When Timon attempted to kill Bob, his shot missed. Bob quickly devised a plan to escape. During his escape, Bob encountered an FBI agent named Memphis.
What? Give me your keys. I didn't shoot the president.
Bob managed to outwit Memphis and stole his car, leaving the agent handcuffed. Before fleeing, Bob whispered to Memphis that he wasn't the one who shot the president. He then drove to a car wash to avoid police tracking. Bob treated his gunshot wound with improvised materials. However, as he exited the car wash, police helicopters surrounded him. Cornered, Bob took a desperate measure, driving his car into the ocean to escape. At FBI headquarters, Memphis was ridiculed for his failure to apprehend Bob. Summoned by his superiors, Memphis defended himself, expressing gratitude for surviving the attack rather than shame. Meanwhile, Bob, now a fugitive, realized his fate was everywhere. He disabled the electricity at a store to enter unnoticed and purchased supplies to treat his injuries. The store clerk had no idea he was helping a man accused of shooting the president.
She thinks it was him.
The next day, Bob sought help from Sarah, Donnie's widow, and the only person he trusted. Initially skeptical of Bob's story, Sarah eventually agreed to help him, recalling his close friendship with her late husband. Following Bob's instructions, Sarah discreetly purchased medicine from separate pharmacies to avoid suspicion. Bob, after sedating himself, allowed Sarah to stitch his gunshot wound. At the FBI office, Memphis became obsessed with the assassination case. His calculations revealed the sniper's actual target wasn't the president but an Ethiopian bishop who was killed by what appeared to be a stray bullet. The bishop had been an outspoken critic of forced land seizures and slavery in Africa, and his death coincided with the president's speech. Memphis sought out Timon to ask about Bob's positioning, only to discover that Timon had been found dead the night before. Convinced this was part of a larger conspiracy, Memphis deepened his investigation. The following morning, Sarah informed Bob of devastating news. His dog had been killed by government agents to lure him out of hiding. Although the president had survived the shooting, the act of cruelty enraged Bob. Determined to prove his innocence, Bob asked Sarah to send a photo of a license plate to Memphis, believing the FBI agent could be an ally in uncovering the truth. At Bob's request, Sarah disguised herself and went to meet Memphis. While Memphis was having lunch, Sarah approached him and handed over a photograph of a license plate. She explained that the license plate belonged to the sniper who attempted to kill the Ethiopian bishop. Hearing this, Memphis hurried back to his office to investigate the plate number. His search revealed connections to land purchases in Africa. However, he couldn't identify the owner of the plate and decided to visit the National Intelligence Agency for more information. On the way, Memphis was ambushed by Isaac's men. Captured and restrained, they forced him to hold a gun to his own head.
I didn't know much. You sure took a long, painful time. Got a pee yet?
Gotta flush them, Troy.
Take him out, get him ready.
Real touchy suicide note, too. All over raw with guilt from when he was...
What is the goddamn...
From a distance, Bob was already in position, systematically taking out Isaac's men one by one. After eliminating the attackers, Bob approached Memphis, who initially feared he was next. Instead, Bob offered to team up, recognizing Memphis as a neutral and trustworthy FBI agent.
Sweat. Hey, who is this guy?
Reluctantly, Memphis agreed, motivated by his growing curiosity about the conspiracy. The two traveled to meet a legendary sniper, Rate, now a renowned firearms dealer. Bob sought answers about the presidential assassination and the sniper who framed him. Rate analyzed the case, deducing potential suspects without visiting the crime scene. His extensive expertise allowed him to identify a few individuals capable of such precise deception, explaining that the shot was designed to mislead, appearing to miss its mark while hitting the target perfectly. Unfortunately, Rate revealed that all known individuals with such skills were deceased. As Bob prepared to leave, Rate recalled a legendary Russian sniper who might still be alive, though rumors suggested he was paralyzed. Bob remembered meeting such a sniper in the past.
Kill them too. Turn one target into 4. To an abandoned 6-story building.
What?
I met the son of a bitch.
Memphis contacted an FBI colleague to locate the sniper. Shortly after, his colleague provided the sniper's address and coordinates in Virginia. Before heading to the sniper's location, Bob taught Memphis how to use a sniper rifle so they could protect each other. Meanwhile, Isaac's men targeted Sarah for aiding Bob's escape. Sarah became their next leverage against him.
Look what you've done now.
Arriving at the sniper's house, Bob and Memphis stealthily took out the guards.
Swear, you got one above you in the roof.
Inside, they confronted the sniper, Mikello. Mikello admitted collaborating with Isaac out of coercion, revealing that Isaac and a wealthy senator controlled vast African land holdings. Their corrupt politics displaced African communities, silencing dissenters through mass graves in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian bishop had planned to expose their crimes, which is why they orchestrated his assassination. When Bob asked why Mikello was divulging such critical information, he confessed his guilt over framing Bob. Mikello also revealed that Sarah had been captured to bait Bob. Before Bob could thank him, Mikello took his own life.
One.
Hit it. Just name up.
Isaac called Bob shortly after, threatening him with Sarah's life. Bob, having recorded the call, turned the tables by demanding a public meeting with Isaac and the senator. They agreed to exchange Sarah for Makillo's recording. At the meeting, Isaac brought Sarah, and the senator accompanied him. A man approached from a distance, but before reaching them, a bullet struck him. Initially, Isaac thought it was Bob, but Bob was positioned elsewhere, eliminating Isaac's sniper. Bob also shot Sarah's captor, disabling him. The man struck earlier turned out to be Memphis, wearing a bulletproof vest. With all threats neutralized, Bob confronted Isaac and the senator. Amused by Bob's ingenuity, the senator offered him a position on his private military team. Bob rejected the offer outright.
What are you doing? Saving our lives.
It's gonna be okay. Hold this.
That proved you were innocent!
Nobody out here is innocent. This stuff's plutonium.
True to his word, Bob destroyed Makillo's recording. Isaac laughed, declaring that neither Bob nor Memphis could ever triumph against his influence. Suddenly, FBI helicopters arrived. Calm, Bob knew the FBI would listen to the truth.
Sergeant, you've got 5 minutes.
Definitely my bullets. Definitely my gun. Proof of this fact.
No?
Trust me.
Yeah.
At FBI headquarters, Bob demonstrated his innocence. His sniper rifle, always secured after use, could not have been used in the attack. He reenacted the sniper's technique to show how the Ethiopian bishop was deliberately targeted. Memphis presented evidence of mass graves and corrupt land deals involving Isaac and the senator. Despite this, the FBI director claimed their actions were beyond U.S. jurisdiction. Isaac, smugly departing the meeting, taunted Bob one final time, confident in his untouchable status. The FBI director apologized to Bob and Memphis, formally clearing Bob of all charges. The film concluded with Isaac and the senator celebrating their victory at a lavish party. They mocked Bob and Memphis' failed attempts to challenge their power.
He requested you.
Do something.
Exactly.
Suddenly, footsteps echoed from above. In a swift and decisive move, Bob executed both Isaac and the senator. He walked away from the scene, where Sarah awaited him in a car. Together, they drove off into the night, bringing the story to a close. More than 3 million soldiers perished fighting for that small piece of land, and nearly 17 million lives were lost in World War I. Hopefully, this film imparts a valuable lesson for us all. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today, we'll summarize the movie Red, released in 2010. A retired secret agent named Frank Moses lives alone in an unremarkable suburban neighborhood. His only source of enjoyment is calling the Pension Service Center, where he often chats with a representative named Sarah. One day, however, Frank is forced to return to his life as a secret agent due to a resurfacing threat from his past that puts his life in danger. Unintentionally, Sarah gets caught in the middle of the situation. Frank teams up with his former colleagues, all of whom are Red, retired extremely dangerous.
You really are CIA.
A retired military officer named Frank Moses woke up and began his daily routine. For 2 years, he had spent his days like this, living alone without anyone by his side. The only person he regularly talked to was a customer service representative who handled inquiries from retired military personnel. That morning, Frank pretended his pension check hadn't arrived, even though it had. This was just an excuse to talk to his dream woman, Sarah. Frank had no family, and even on Christmas, he spent his time alone at home. The only thing that brightened Frank's days was the arrival of his pension check, which gave him a reason to call Sarah. On the other hand, Sarah was a friendly woman who enjoyed chatting with Frank. They discussed many topics, and to better understand Sarah, Frank even started reading all the novels she liked. As their bond grew closer, Frank finally mustered the courage to ask Sarah to meet, even though they lived in different cities. One night, Frank woke up to use the bathroom but suddenly found himself targeted by a group of special forces preparing to execute him. It was unclear why he was targeted, but one thing was certain: Frank was no ordinary man. Within 10 seconds, he neutralized all his attackers. However, the assault wasn't over. More operatives were lying in wait outside, ready to launch a follow-up attack. Frank quickly grabbed bullets from one of his assailants' weapons and heated them in a frying pan before heading to the basement to gather more gear. His house was showered with bullets, and the attackers even lobbed a grenade in an attempt to eliminate him. All their efforts were in vain, as Frank had already prepared a counterattack. Meanwhile, in another city, Sarah had just returned from dinner. As she was relaxing, she was startled by Frank's unexpected appearance. She screamed, assuming he was just an old creep. Without much explanation, Frank insisted that they escape together.
They're trying to kill you too.
They know I like you.
Left with no other choice, Frank kidnapped his dream woman, apologizing for the less than romantic first impression, but explaining it was for her safety. Elsewhere, we meet Cooper, a top CIA agent who had just executed a target and staged the death as a suicide.
Listen. Of course I do.
After completing his mission, his boss, Cynthia, summoned him to discuss his next target, Frank Moses. At the same time, Frank stopped at a motel to hide Sarah, tying her to the bed to prevent her from escaping. Frank then visited an old friend, Joe, with whom he had worked at the CIA. Frank asked Joe to help him figure out who was behind the previous night's attack.
Did you ID him?
Kinda.
Why was Frank being targeted, and why now? It was revealed that the team who attacked Frank had also murdered a journalist in New York City. Frank warned Joe to be cautious, as his life might also be at risk. During this time, Cooper discovered through phone surveillance that Frank frequently spoke with Sarah. Coincidentally, Sarah had called the police for help after freeing herself from her restraints. Cooper dispatched operatives disguised as police officers to pick her up first. Fortunately, Frank arrived in time to save her. This incident convinced Sarah that Frank's warnings were real. As they fled, Cooper suddenly appeared.
You really are CIA.
Frank managed to outwit him temporarily, but the attack was far from over. To trap Cooper, Frank lured all the city's police officers to one location, leaving Cooper surrounded. Meanwhile, Joe was also targeted by a CIA operative. Why were they being hunted? To uncover the truth, Frank visited the mother of the journalist who had been killed. She revealed that before her daughter was murdered, she had sent a postcard with a code pointing to where her investigative findings were hidden. Inside a book, Frank discovered a piece of paper containing the names of people connected to the case. Strangely, most of them had died under suspicious circumstances within a short time frame. The only survivor was a pilot named Gabriel. Among the names, Frank also found Joe's name, prompting him to call Joe to check on him. Elsewhere, Cooper began to question who Frank really was. Although his boss had described Frank as an ordinary retiree, She eventually gave Cooper access to a high-security archive. There, Henry, the archivist, revealed that Frank was far from ordinary. He was the government's most elite assassin, responsible for eliminating terrorist leaders, drug lords, and even overthrowing governments.
Frank Moses' file.
Why was he retired?
He got old.
Thanks.
Meanwhile, Frank sought out Marvin, another name on the list. According to public records, Marvin had supposedly died in a fire 2 years ago. Frank revealed that Marvin had faked his death after retiring from the CIA to escape detection.
I'm not trying to kill you. Want to take that knife out of my balls now?
It turns out Frank and Marvin were old friends. In fact, Marvin had always been convinced something like this would happen, which is why he faked his own death. Interestingly, Marvin still kept detailed records of all the missions they had completed during their service. Upon review, they found that one mission from 1981 included all the names on the list. In that mission, Frank and his team were sent to a village in Guatemala. Their task was to dispose of the bodies from a massacre carried out by the government. It seemed someone was determined to keep the truth about that mission hidden, which is why Frank and his former teammates were being eliminated.
Let's go in there, clean it up, make it look like it never happened. Is there anybody still alive on that list? I am getting the pig!
To uncover who was behind this, Marvin agreed to join Frank. However, Marvin was extremely paranoid, always suspecting he was being watched by the government. Upon leaving the airport, he even held an older woman at gunpoint, convinced her movements were suspicious.
Camera in her bag. I'm gonna kill her now.
No camera in the bag.
She was following us, Frank.
Eventually, they tracked down the only surviving person on the list, Gabriel, the pilot. Initially, Gabriel refused to talk about the secret mission in Guatemala. But when he was told his life was in danger, he finally agreed to cooperate. Gabriel explained that in 1981, he was tasked with extracting the perpetrators of the massacre from the village. Just as he was about to reveal who those people were, they were attacked. Marvin's suspicions were proven right. They had been followed from the start. Even the older woman from the airport turned out to be a government agent. But of course, being surrounded was no problem for Frank. They eliminated all the attackers, and Marvin personally dealt with the older woman.
Nice shot.
Though they escaped the attack, Gabriel was killed before he could reveal the mastermind behind it all. The only way to find out now was to infiltrate CIA headquarters. For this, Frank sought out an old acquaintance who was now the Russian ambassador to the U.S.
The Frank Moses.
When I got up this morning,
This man, Ivan, was a former agent who often clashed with Frank during their active years. However, before Ivan retired, Frank had helped him on a mission, leaving Ivan feeling indebted to him.
the butcher.
Everyone knows that Russia is the only country capable of rivaling the U.S., so Frank asked Ivan to help him gain access to CIA headquarters. The next day, Frank and Sarah entered the CIA headquarters disguised as high-ranking personnel. With Ivan's assistance, they obtained the necessary identities and access. However, things went awry when Sarah accidentally dropped her disguised contact lens during a retinal scan. The alarm went off, and they were surrounded by special forces. Thankfully, Sarah managed to distract the guards, even enlisting their help in searching for the lens.
A good day, sir.
Gentlemen?
Meanwhile, Frank made his way to the archive room, where he was warmly greeted by the archivist, Henry, an old friend. Henry even helped Frank locate the classified file he was seeking, specifically the mission file from Guatemala in 1981.
Take care of yourself, Henry.
You too, Mr. Moses.
Frank wasn't done yet. He paid a visit to Cooper's office and attacked him. However, Cooper was one of the CIA's top young agents, and the fight was intense. Frank managed to escape, stealing Cooper's access card in the process. Covered in blood and severely injured, Frank knew he couldn't leave the building easily. He improvised, creating a device using basic supplies and activating the fire alarm to cause a mass evacuation. As firefighters arrived, Frank executed his escape plan. Marvin was waiting in the parking lot in an ambulance, but the bigger surprise was the presence of Joe inside the vehicle. Joe had survived the previous attack and even killed the agent who came after him. At the same time, Cooper started questioning why the government was targeting a former top agent like Frank. What had Frank done? Unfortunately, Cynthia refused to divulge any information. Frank's arm, wounded from a gunshot, was in bad shape. He sought help from another old ally, Victoria, a former MI6 agent who was still active as a contract assassin. The secret file Frank had stolen provided a new lead. It revealed a name that the journalist had never mentioned. This person was likely the mastermind behind everything. However, meeting him wouldn't be easy, as he was heavily protected by the CIA.
Alexander Dunning.
Defense contractor. Very connected.
Strangely, their plan was somehow leaked to Cynthia. She ordered Cooper to intercept them immediately. The person Frank intended to meet was a government contractor, specifically, a prominent arms dealer named Alexander Daning. To infiltrate Daning's estate, Joe disguised himself as a foreign dignitary looking to do business with him. Meanwhile, Victoria and Sarah monitored the guards' movements outside the mansion. It's worth noting that Victoria had a soft spot for Frank. She even jokingly threatened to kill Sarah if she ever broke Frank's heart.
Never seen him like that. So if you break his heart, I will kill you. Okay.
Daning invited Joe to a private discussion in his secret room. During their conversation, Daning realized that his guards had been subdued by Frank. Interrogation began.
Who did you fly out of there?
And after intense threats, Daning finally revealed the truth. The person responsible for the Guatemala massacre was a lieutenant who, years later, had risen to become the Vice President of the United States. With a presidential campaign looming, the Vice President feared his past sins would be exposed, prompting him to eliminate everyone involved in the mission. The situation escalated as FBI agents outside the estate noticed something was amiss. Shortly after, Cooper arrived at the scene. Victoria warned Frank that they were surrounded. Cooper gave Frank 1 minute to surrender before he would order an execution.
Walk out that front door and give yourself up. Yeah.
What's it look like?
There's no clean exit.
To create a diversion, someone needed to draw attention. Joe volunteered, disguising himself as Frank and surrendering. Tragically, as soon as Joe stepped outside, he was shot in the chest. Meanwhile, Frank and Marvin escaped through a different route, with Victoria providing cover from a distance using a sniper rifle. Unfortunately, during their escape, Sarah slipped and fell from a hill, where she was immediately captured by the enemy. Meanwhile, Frank and his team managed to get away thanks to Ian, who unexpectedly appeared and offered them a ride.
Frank, you're no good to her dead.
We gotta...
It's nice to see you again, Ivan.
Joe.
Soon after, Frank and his team mourned Joe's death and began planning their next move. The challenge was immense. Their adversary was now the Vice President of the United States, a formidable target. At the same time, Frank was deeply worried about Sarah's condition, but Ivan calmed him down with some relationship advice, recounting how he himself had been shot 3 times in the chest by Victoria in the past. It turned out Ivan and Victoria had once been lovers, but their relationship cast doubt on Victoria's loyalty to the UK, forcing her to shoot Ivan. Ivan's story served as a reminder that love is worth fighting for, no matter the obstacles. Sometime later, Cooper received an unexpected phone call from Frank. The CIA immediately seized the opportunity to trace the call, but when the tracking was complete, Cooper was shocked to discover Frank was at his home, threatening to harm his family if he touched Sarah.
I swear to you, I will keep Sarah safe. What are you gonna do, Frank?
I'm gonna kill the vice president.
In a panic, Cooper rushed home with dozens of Special Forces officers, only to find that Frank had already left and his family was unharmed. However, Frank had not come just to issue a threat. He had also planted the secret file about the Guatemala massacre in Cooper's home. Frank seemed convinced that Cooper was different from his superiors. To verify the document's authenticity, Cooper interrogated Sarah, demanding to know where they had obtained it. Despite the intimidation, Sarah remained silent, demonstrating her unwavering loyalty. It was clear Frank had chosen the right partner. Frank made it clear he would kill the vice president if the CIA continued to pursue him. Cooper, realizing the gravity of the situation, requested to be assigned to the vice president's protection detail to stay close to the unfolding events. Frank and Marvin then retrieved a cache of weapons they had hidden for emergencies like this. If they were going to take down the vice president, they needed the best equipment available. The plan was set in motion. The following night, a gala dinner hosted by the vice president presented the perfect opportunity. Marvin infiltrated the event disguised as hotel staff, while Igor and Ivan entered through the front doors as invited guests.
Vice President Robert Stanton.
The gala was a charity event, and Cooper was patrolling the venue. He never suspected an attack, as Frank's team blended seamlessly with the guests. When the dancing concluded, Victoria left the room and locked the main door with her necklace, while Ivan dispersed gas among the tables. A Secret Service agent grew suspicious of Victoria's actions, but it was already too late.
Gas! I smell gas!
Panic erupted as guests noticed the gas leak. The Secret Service attempted to evacuate the vice president through the main door, only to find it locked, forcing them to head for the rear exit. However, as they tried to leave, the president's armored vehicle was disabled by machine gun fire. Moments later, the vice president's backup vehicle arrived, but Ivan had secretly planted a bomb underneath it. The Secret Service redirected the vice president to the emergency stairwell. Meanwhile, Cooper pursued Victoria, but soon discovered that Marvin and Victoria were still tailing the vice president. A shootout ensued, forcing the vice president to flee in another direction. Victoria was wounded in the skirmish as reinforcements arrived. She handed over the mission to Marvin, and, despite being surrounded, was saved by her former lover, Ivan, who appeared just in time. The vice president reached the building's lobby, only to be confronted by Marvin. The Secret Service hesitated to shoot because Marvin was wearing a bomb.
Go, go, go!
A limousine appeared to rescue the vice president, but it was all a trap. Cooper leaped onto the car's hood to warn the vice president, but it was too late.
Stop the car! Pull over!
Who are you?
One of the men you ordered killed.
The vice president was abducted by Frank and his team. Shortly afterward, Cooper received another call from Frank, demanding Sarah's release in exchange for the vice president. Frank promised to release him without hesitation. Cooper headed to the designated location. As promised, Cynthia brought Sarah to the location, but the situation took a shocking turn when Daning, the arms dealer, appeared. It became clear that he was the true mastermind. The vice president was merely his pawn, with Daning funding his entire campaign. When the vice president tried to stop him, Daning shot him without hesitation.
Shut up. A life for a life.
Cooper was ordered to handcuff Frank, but secretly collaborated with him. Cooper had grown disillusioned upon realizing how Cynthia had manipulated him. In a sudden turn of events, Cooper killed Cynthia, while Frank and his team neutralized Daning's men, bringing the ordeal to an end. Cooper vowed to clean up the mess and allowed Frank to leave. In the end, everyone on Frank's team survived, bringing the intense and chaotic chapter to a close.
Let's go, shortwave.
In January 1968, during the Chinese New Year, a group of American soldiers led by Sergeant Major Bill Hafner was on a routine patrol. At that time, they arrived at a village named Enlep located in South Vietnam. However, to their surprise, they found everyone in the village brutally killed. They knew that the Viet Cong forces had attacked the village. Nevertheless, they discovered a young boy who was alive and unharmed.
Why don't you take it?
We gonna leave the village like this?
Tortured.
Major Bill's unit took the boy with them and burned down the An Lean village. Later, they continued their patrol. During the journey, DiNardo, a trusted soldier assigned to open the patrol route, spotted 2 Viet Cong soldiers guarding a tunnel by the river. DiNardo immediately shot the 2 Viet Cong soldiers. After incapacitating the Viet Cong soldiers guarding the tunnel, Major Bill decided to enter the tunnel to find out what was inside. Inside the tunnel, Major Bill found an American soldier taken captive by the Viet Cong forces. Major Bill asked the soldier his name and his unit, but the soldier only cried and didn't know his own name. Major Bill rescued the soldier, and they detonated the tunnel.
No, wood bound, baby.
Following that, Major Bill and his troops resumed their patrol. Along the way, they encountered fishermen whom they suspected to be disguised Viet Cong soldiers. Major Bill ordered DiNardo to stay alert and observe the situation from behind, while he and the other soldiers approached the fishermen. As expected, when Major Bill and the others approached, one of the fishermen immediately grabbed his weapon. DiNardo quickly shot the fisherman, and a gunfight ensued. Major Bill and his troops successfully neutralized the disguised Viet Cong forces and felt unsafe to travel by land to reach the nearest military base. Major Bill instructed his men to contact the headquarters to request a helicopter pickup. Before long, a helicopter arrived to pick them up. In the helicopter, DiNardo gave the name PLU to the boy he found in An Lean village. The name was the baseball player's name whom DiNardo idolized. On their way to the nearest military base called Gloria, their helicopter was attacked by Viet Cong forces. Fortunately, they managed to escape and landed safely at Gloria before the helicopter exploded. After the incident, Major Bill and DiNardo immediately met Captain William, the leader at Gloria Base, to inquire about information regarding the Viet Cong's positions at that time. However, Captain William spoke incoherently. Major Bill suspected that Captain William's mental state was disturbed. This made Major Bill and DiNardo slightly anxious because Captain William seemed incapable of performing his duties effectively. Eventually, Major Bill and DiNardo left Captain William feeling perplexed. Mayor Bill and DiNardo realized that the situation at Gloria Base was chaotic and required a change in command. They planned a coup to replace Captain William. That night, Mayor Bill and DiNardo began executing their coup plan. They covertly attacked Captain William's barracks with grenades, successfully injuring Captain William.
Medic! Please. Oh, hell, they got the CP! Pressure up here, now!
The next day, Sergeant Jones, a subordinate of Captain William who had just returned from patrol, reported to Mayor Bill that he had seen approximately 300 Viet Cong soldiers moving towards Gloria Base. Mayor Bill also informed John that he had previously received reports of 2,000 Viet Cong troops moving towards Gloria Base. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Viet Cong forces were preparing defenses around Gloria Base. At Gloria Base, Mayor Bill started ordering all soldiers to repair and strengthen their defenses. From a distance, Colonel Chauvin, the Viet Cong force commander, observed the movements of American troops at Gloria Base. When Chauvin saw American helicopters arriving at Gloria Base, he ordered his men to attack the helicopter landing zone with mortar strikes. As Captain William and the wounded soldiers were being evacuated from Gloria Base, Viet Cong forces attacked the base with mortar strikes. After the attack, 2 Vietnamese girls approached Gloria Base. An American soldier named Murphy reported to DiNardo that 2 Vietnamese girls were approaching the base. Seeing the 2 Vietnamese girls, DiNardo immediately asked Murphy to shoot the girls. However, Murphy refused. Without hesitation, DiNardo shot the 2 Vietnamese women. Following this, DiNardo scolded Murphy and emphasized not to trust Vietnamese girls. The Viet Cong would do anything to kill American soldiers. Meanwhile, on the side of Colonel Chauvin, he received a message from headquarters. The message contained information that a massive attack would be launched that night across South Vietnam, even targeting the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. That night, Viet Cong forces launched a massive attack on the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. The next day, Viet Cong forces also launched a massive attack on Gloria Base. Due to the strength of the American forces' defense at Gloria Base, the Viet Cong's formidable defense was unable to cripple Gloria Base. After the battle, DiNardo ordered Murphy to inspect the bodies of Viet Cong soldiers and kill any Viet Cong soldiers still alive. They took 1 Viet Cong soldier who was not severely injured as a prisoner. Shortly afterward, Murphy successfully brought the surviving Viet Cong soldier to be taken as a prisoner and interrogated.
Talking to me in 20 minutes. No problem.
That night, DiNardo conveyed the information he obtained from the Viet Cong soldier they captured to Mayor Bill. DiNardo stated that the Viet Cong forces were digging the ground to create tunnels leading to Gloria Base. Upon hearing this, Mayor Bill immediately ordered DiNardo, Murphy, and Chris to infiltrate the Viet Cong camp and destroy their camp. Upon reaching the Viet Cong camp, they immediately set up several traps in the camp area. However, when they were about to return to Gloria Base, Murphy stepped on a Viet Cong mine. At the same time, several Viet Cong soldiers on patrol approached them. DiNardo and Chris left Murphy behind and lured the Viet Cong soldiers on patrol to chase them. Meanwhile, Murphy tried to save himself from the mine he stepped on. The three of them managed to return to Gloria Base safely. At the same time, the traps they set in the Viet Cong camp also exploded. The next day, enraged Viet Cong forces launched a massive attack on Gloria Base due to their camp being destroyed. The Viet Cong forces kept advancing, breaching the American forces' defense at Gloria Base. Due to the overwhelming number of Viet Cong forces attacking the American forces, they began to struggle. Fortunately, helicopters from the American Air Cavalry Unit arrived and immediately attacked the Viet Cong forces. Unable to withstand the aerial assault, Colonel Chauvin was forced to withdraw his forces at that moment.
Pháo bên rút lưỡi, chuẩn bị.
After the battle, the American Air Cavalry Unit counterattacked the Viet Cong supply camp. The American Air Cavalry Unit continued to relentlessly attack the Viet Cong camp. After destroying the Viet Cong camp, the American Air Cavalry Unit hastily left the camp.
612, this is 6. Let them know who we are on the way out.
The next day, Viet Cong forces led directly by Colonel Chauvin launched another massive attack on Gloria Base. The Viet Cong forces surrounded Gloria Base from all directions. This attack truly put the American forces on the brink of defeat. In the midst of the battle, PW fled in fear, leaving the medical room. When the American forces were almost defeated, unexpectedly, the American Air Cavalry Unit returned and immediately attacked the Viet Cong forces surrounding them. As DiNardo was about to secure PW in the midst of the battlefield, Colonel Chauvin managed to shoot DiNardo. Afterward, Colonel Chauvin took PW away from Gloria Base. There were many casualties on both sides in the battle, and even Murphy and Chris lost their lives. DiNardo was severely injured and could no longer feel anything. DiNardo asked Mayor Bill to end his suffering because, previously, DiNardo had promised that he would only be willing to die at the hands of Mayor Bill. With a heavy heart, Mayor Bill granted DiNardo's request. Meanwhile, Colonel Chauvin and his surviving forces chose to retreat and evacuate their wounded soldiers through the Puloy River. Four British soldiers stood guard in a trench, trying to block the advance of German forces. Among them was Danny, a famous professional boxer undefeated in his career in England. Seeing Danny, an admiring soldier mimicked his boxing moves as if in the ring. Unbeknownst to him, he became an easy target for the German soldiers. The British troops then retreated, regrouping with their unit, but an officer ordered all British and Allied soldiers to head to Dunkirk for evacuation back to Europe. Unfortunately, Danny and Billy got separated from their squad and became lost. They eventually found themselves in a French village where Danny met a beautiful woman. Danny tried asking for directions to Dunkirk, but instead, the woman's father confronted him at gunpoint. Fortunately, the woman spoke English fluently and offered to draw a map for them. While at her home, German soldiers suddenly arrived and ambushed them. Danny and Billy had no choice but to surrender, though sadly, the woman's father was still shot by the German soldiers. Danny and Billy were then taken to a prison camp in France, where other Allied prisoners were also held. A German officer was seen scanning through the prisoners' names and recognized Danny. To confirm, he went to where Danny was held. The officer, Draker, asked who among them was named Danny, and Danny revealed himself. It turned out Draker was an avid boxing fan and offered Danny the chance to fight his best boxer. Draker ordered Danny to face his man, but Danny refused to fight for Draker's entertainment. Draker then mentioned that his superior would arrive in 2 days, and Danny's fight would be a gift for him. Danny declined the offer, but said he'd agree to fight if the other prisoners were freed. Draker, not one to be dissuaded, threatened Danny with a harsh life in the camp. The prisoners debated Danny's decision, and ultimately, they decided not to comply with the Germans. They began to look for a way to escape. During break time, they scanned the surroundings, but found no weak points in the camp's security. Only local couriers had permission to come and go. Suddenly, Draker summoned Danny and William. In his office, Draker told Danny his superior was eager to see him fight, offering one last chance with the promise of information on their next destination. Danny still refused. In response, Draker called for his boxer, and William was hung up as a live target. Seeing this, Danny finally agreed to fight, but Draker wasn't convinced. The boxer beat William to death, leaving all the prisoners in despair, especially Danny, who felt deeply guilty over William's death. The prisoners showed their solidarity by giving their food rations to Danny, hoping he could fight well and inspire them. When the fight began, Danny was in the locker room. All the prisoners and locals were invited to watch. Danny confided that his boxing matches had been staged all along. He hadn't fought for real in the last 7 years. Billy was stunned by this revelation. Suddenly, Draker arrived and told Danny he must lose in the 10th round, but he had to put on a spectacular show or face consequences. Danny noticed an unlocked back door and thought about escaping, but the SS troops arrived before he could tell Billy. In the first round, Danny restrained himself, avoiding an easy win over his opponent. In the 10th round, he pretended to fall, but the hopeful cheers from the prisoners urged him to rise. Unfortunately, the woman who had helped Danny missed her chance to assassinate the commander. With his remaining strength, Danny defeated Draker's boxer. The prisoners were overjoyed and filled with renewed hope. Draker, furious, summoned Danny to his superior, who was displeased with the fight. Before he was transferred to a German camp, Danny was set to face the world heavyweight champion. The next day, during break time, Danny spotted the food courier, who was actually the woman who had helped him. Without hesitation, he created a distraction to speak with her, managing to pass her a letter requesting her help in their escape plan. On the awaited day, Danny began his fight against the world champion. His punches had little effect on Maximus, while he took a brutal beating. One by one, his friends left the arena. Danny held on until the 4th round. William checked the door of the locker room they planned to use, but it was tightly guarded by German soldiers. Danny told William to leave, buying time so his friends could escape. At the end, the woman assisting Danny successfully assassinated the Nazi commander, while Draker stayed focused on Danny, who could barely stand. William was seen successfully evacuated from France. The fate of Danny and the villagers remained unknown, but their sacrifices for their friends were worthy of honor. In the Gulf of Eden, Somalia, inside a cargo ship, the pirates were making a documentary video of the execution of hostages they had been holding for 3 months. As the pirates were about to execute the hostages, they were surprised by the arrival of a mercenary elite force called the Expendables. Barney, the leader of the Expendables, offered the promised ransom of $3 million to the pirates. However, the pirate leader refused and demanded a ransom of $5 million. Claiming that the Expendables arrived too late. Hearing this, an Expendables member named Gunner became enraged and shot the pirate leader, leading to a shootout. After eliminating the pirates, Gunnar hung one of them on the ship's deck as a lesson for other pirates. However, Barney and other members disagreed with Gunnar's action, as the Expendables did not engage in such absurd acts. Frustrated with Gunnar's behavior, another Expendables member named Yang immediately attacked Gunnar. However, Gunnar managed to corner Yang and threatened him with a knife. Fortunately, Barney intervened to break up their fight and still blamed Gunnar for his actions.
Let him go.
After completing the mission in the Gulf of Eden, an Expendables member named Lee visited his lover named Leslie. However, Lee discovered that Leslie had entered into a relationship with another man. Leslie justified her actions by claiming that Lee hadn't seen her for a long time, leading her to be involved with someone else to satisfy her desires. Hearing this, Lee's heart shattered and he chose to leave Leslie.
Please tell me you understand what I'm saying. You have to understand.
At the Expendables headquarters, Barney met with a member named Tool, who had fought alongside him in the past. Tool now served as an advisor and a liaison for new recruits. During this time, Barney informed Tool that he would remove Gunnar from the team due to his reckless behavior, which almost injured other members. Meanwhile, on the island of Velena, a group of soldiers led by a general named Garza successfully captured 3 smugglers attempting to sell national goods to foreigners. During interrogation, the culprits claimed they were forced to do it to meet their families' needs. However, Garza did not believe them and decided to execute them for treason. As Garza was about to shoot, an American named James shot one of the culprits first, claiming that he also felt aggrieved if Garza's property was stolen.
You want your apes respect? Snuff those two.
The next day, Barney met his client in a church. The man referred to himself as the church's master. He would pay the Expendables for a mission. In this mission, Barney was reunited with an old friend, a former mercenary named Trenz. The church's master then offered them a work contract to overthrow the cruel government of General Garza on the island of Velena. Hearing Garza's name, Trenz rejected the offer and allowed Barney to undertake the task. After Trenz left, Barney then demanded a payment of $5 million from the church's master for the mission. Half of it was to be paid upfront, and the rest after completing the mission. The church's master agreed to Barney's request, but threatened to eliminate the Expendables if they failed to kill Garza.
You got a problem with that? Let's talk.
When Barney returned to headquarters, Gunnar approached him, pleading not to be expelled from the team. He promised not to act recklessly while working. However, Barney still decided to remove Gunnar from the team, causing Gunnar great disappointment. The next day, Barney and Lee flew to Velena to meet a girl who was a contact of the church's master. The girl would guide them to the operational areas of Garza's government. Upon reaching Velena, Barney and Lee presented fake passports to the harbor guards, claiming to be animal officers monitoring exotic wildlife in Velena. As Barney and Lee entered the rural areas, a group of Garza's soldiers suddenly arrived and harassed the residents. Barney and Lee recorded the situation and saw an American man controlling the soldiers. After that, Barney and Lee visited a bar to meet a woman named Sandra, a contact of the church's master. After meeting her, Sandra took Barney and Lee to the location of Garza's palace in her car. During the journey, Sandra explained that Velena used to be a beautiful island until Americans came and bought the island's resources from General Garza for business. The collaboration between Americans and Garza led to the oppressive government in Velena, even massacring residents who tried to resist the government. James and Garza visited a plantation, which turned out to be a marijuana field constituting their business. However, Garza started to dislike James as he continuously controlled and ruled over Garza. When Barney's group was about to reach the palace area, Lee decided to get off the car to monitor the palace from another direction. Meanwhile, Barney and Sandra continued their journey to the palace area. Upon reaching their destination, Barney observed the area. After observing, Barney told Sandra that Velena could not be saved anymore and asked Sandra to leave Velena if she wanted to live in peace. However, Sandra refused to leave Velena. Shortly after, a group of Garza's soldiers arrived and surrounded them. From Sandra's conversation with one of the soldiers, Barney learned that Sandra was actually General Garza's daughter. When the soldier dragged Sandra, Barney immediately resisted, and Lee also arrived to help Barney.
Get her! Got it!
Garza's men reported to James that they were attacked by Americans. Meanwhile, Barney, Lee, and Sandra tried to save themselves from Garza's soldiers. Upon reaching the harbor, Barney asked Lee to take Sandra to the plane while he would deal with the harbor officers. However, when they reached the plane, Sandra refused to leave. After dealing with the harbor officers, Barney ran towards the plane while Garza's soldiers continued to chase him. Inside the plane, Barney initially considered leaving Velena abruptly as he realized he couldn't fight against Garza and his men. However, after thinking for a while, Barney decided to return to Velena. Upon reaching the Velena harbor, Barney and Lee shot the Garza soldiers still at the harbor. Afterward, Barney and Lee dropped some aircraft fuel to burn the soldiers. Barney and Lee's attack made Garza and James worried. With just 2 people, Barney and Lee managed to eliminate 41 soldiers and successfully escape. To find out Barney and Lee's next plan, James called someone claiming to know everything about Barney and Lee. It turned out to be Gunnar. Gunnar wanted to collaborate with James to seek revenge for what Barney had done to him. Upon returning to headquarters, Barney sought information about the church's master. It turned out the church's master was a significant figure in the CIA. From the information he obtained, Barney realized that their actual target was James. James was a former CIA agent who used General Garza as protection for his drug business operations. The church's master couldn't send his special forces to handle James because the U.S. would face UN sanctions. Therefore, the church's master hired the expendables to eliminate Garza, so James would lose protection and the church's master could handle James. Realizing that the expendables' reputation would be sacrificed in this mission, Barney decided to cancel the collaboration with the church's master. The next day, Lee visited Leslie again because he missed her. However, when they met, Lee saw Leslie's face already injured by her ex-boyfriend. Lee then took Leslie to meet her ex-boyfriend, who was playing basketball with his friends. Lee got off his motorcycle and told the man that he shouldn't hurt Leslie. Then, Lee fought them all. Barney met Toole and told him about Sandra, the daughter of their target. Barney couldn't forget Sandra because of his actions, and now she was considered a traitor and targeted in her own country. Toole then shared his experience with Barney, exactly like what Barney experienced with Sandra. Toole advised Barney to save Sandra before he regretted it. Touched by Toole's heartfelt advice, Barney planned to save Sandra alone. Elsewhere, Garza's soldiers successfully found Sandra. They then took Sandra to an underground room for torture and interrogation about her plans with Barney. The next day, Barney informed his team that he would return to Velena alone to save Sandra. This made Lee a little disappointed because Barney had previously canceled the mission, and now he wanted to go back to the island for a woman. When Barney was about to leave, Yang decided to join Barney. As a friend, Yang was willing to help Barney even without payment. However, on their journey, they were attacked by Gunnar and James's henchmen. Barney and Yang managed to overturn Gunner's car. Gunner got out of his car and tried to kill Yang first. Gunner and Yang then fought one-on-one until Gunner managed to incapacitate Yang. When Gunner was about to finish Yang, Barney shot Gunner with his pistol. Barney then approached Gunner and said that the bullet he shot didn't hit Gunner's vital parts, so Gunner could still be saved. Despite Gunner's significant mistake, Barney was willing to accept him back into the team. Hearing this, Gunner felt moved and deeply remorseful. Then, Barney asked who had instructed him to go so far, and Gunner revealed everything. Barney and Yang then went to the plane. However, all Expendables members were ready to help Barney without payment. Then they departed for Velena to save Sandra and put an end to James's crimes. Upon reaching Velena, they infiltrated the palace and started placing bombs in every corner of the rooms. Meanwhile, Garza and James started to argue because James dared to consider Sandra a threat if Garza didn't obey James' orders. When two guards were about to torture Sandra in the underground room, Barney appeared and killed the guards. As Barney and Sandra tried to leave, they were ambushed by Garza's soldiers led by Payne, James's confidant. After Sandra was brought before her father, Lee and Yang arrived to rescue Barney.
Come on, get my rifle, let's go!
When Barney and his team exited the palace, they were surrounded by Garza's forces. Garza then told his forces that he felt guilty for collaborating with Americans who actually wanted to destroy their country. After saying that, James immediately shot Garza and then took Sandra away from the palace. After seeing Sandra leaving the palace, Barney detonated the bombs they had planted. When James and Payne were about to take Sandra to the helicopter, Yang immediately blocked them by detonating a ditch filled with oil, creating a large fire. However, Yang's efforts were in vain because James and Payne used a wooden door to cross the fire that blocked them. Fortunately, one of the Expendables members managed to stop Payne. A one-on-one fight then occurred until Payne was defeated. Barney asked his other team members to launch a missile towards the helicopter. Then Barney shot the missile until it exploded and destroyed James's helicopter. Seeing his helicopter explode, James took Sandra out of the palace's area. Fortunately, Barney managed to intercept them. James pointed his gun at Sandra and ordered Barney to drop his gun. When Sandra resisted, Barney immediately shot James dead. After eliminating James, Barney and his team bid farewell to Sandra. Barney promised that he would always visit Sandra at another time. After successfully completing the mission, the Expendables team gathered at headquarters to celebrate their success. The story begins by showing a god named Null who is imprisoned by his own creations, the symbiotes. He can only be freed from his prison by finding a codex newly created on Earth. Null quickly commands his other creations to search for this codex. Continuing from the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home, we see Eddie and Venom at a bar in Marvel's secret timeline. However, soon after, they return to their world. Eddie is now a fugitive, accused of killing Detective Mulligan. Seeking protection, Eddie decides to head to a church in New York. On the way, Venom feels hungry, and luckily, they come across a den of dog smugglers. A fight ensues when three criminals arrive, but instead of being intimidated, Eddie scares them by showing Venom. After capturing them, Venom finally gets his nutritious meal, the brains of the criminals. Eddie also takes a pair of shoes from one of the criminals since his own are damaged. Behind them, an alien creature sent by Null is tracking Venom. Meanwhile, a bartender is visited by a Special Forces team led by General Strickland, who asks about Eddie Brock's whereabouts and eventually takes the bartender away. Next, we're introduced to Dr. Payne, a survivor of a lightning strike. He hears that Strickland's team is bringing in Detective Mulligan. Dr. Payne works in a lab at Area 51, focusing on symbiote research. Area 51 is set to be shut down, and the symbiote research facility is located deep underground, making it impossible to track. In the lab, they attempt to fuse symbiotes with humans, seeing Mulligan as the only one who has successfully bonded with a symbiote. Mulligan explains that the symbiotes came to Earth to hide from Null, not to conquer it. Meanwhile, Eddie and Venom are on a plane to New York. As Venom fully takes over Eddie's body, the alien creature appears. Fortunately, the creature gets caught in the plane's propeller, and Eddie survives when Venom transforms into a parachute. After landing, Venom explains that the creature is a Xenovage, a being sent by Null to hunt symbiotes. It turns out Eddie and Venom possess a codex due to their past near-death experience. The codex is Null's key to escape from prison, but the Xenovage can only see the codex if Venom is in his true form. Soon, they find a horse and Venom transforms it into a symbiote horse, enabling it to run extremely fast. Back in the lab, Strickland refuses to believe that the symbiotes came to Earth just to hide. When they learn of Eddie's location, Strickland's forces approach Eddie, shooting a weapon that separates Eddie from Venom. During the ensuing fight, Eddie accidentally kills one of Strickland's men. Cornered, Eddie rebonds with Venom, and Xenovage detects the codex in Venom's body, pursuing him. Thanks to Xenovage, Eddie, and Venom manage to escape Strickland by blending in as ordinary humans. Eddie is shocked to find that not only the police, but also special forces are after them. In the lab, Mulligan's body is overtaken by his symbiote, Lasher. Lasher reveals that Xenovage is after Venom because Venom possesses the codex. If Null gains access to the codex, he will destroy everything. The only way to destroy the codex is if either the symbiote or a toast dies. Eddie encounters a hippie family who kindly offers him food. Martin, the father, offers Eddie a ride as they head to Las Vegas. The family's destination is Area 51 because they believe aliens are there, unaware that Eddie is hosting an alien, Venom. During the journey, Martin starts singing, and the family joins in, while Venom also sings along, although Eddie refuses. Later that night, the younger sibling wakes up and offers Eddie some chocolate, expressing fear of aliens. Eddie reassures them that aliens don't really exist. Martin also wakes up and talks about hell, a gate that only the deceased can see. They eventually arrive in Las Vegas, where Martin gives Eddie some money and shoes as keepsakes. Eddie considers robbing and hijacking a luxury car, but Venom suggests trying his luck at a casino with the little money given by the hippie family. However, Eddie's attire isn't up to the dress code, so he is denied entry. Spotting a drunk person, Eddie and Venom quickly take his clothes and enter the casino. Venom eagerly spends all their money at the slot machines, thrilled despite losing. Surprisingly, they encounter Mrs. Chen, who, for some reason, is there and invites Eddie to her room, where she also invites Venom to dance. Strickland finds out that Eddie is in Las Vegas and immediately sends his team to capture him. When Xenovage arrives to confront Venom, he flees as Strickland's forces approach. Eddie and Venom are separated and taken to the lab, with Xenovage sneaking into the facility. Meanwhile, the hippie family arrives at Area 51 and secretly enters. They climb an empty tower and look down at the deserted Area 51. In the lab, Venom is placed in a room with other symbiotes. Eddie wakes up from unconsciousness and meets Mulligan, now hosting Lasher, who urges him to protect the Codex. Strickland arrives at the lab and shoots Eddie in the chest, but luckily, Venom smuggles himself through Dr. Charisma's body to save Eddie. However, Xenovage arrives at this point. The symbiotes are released and take over the humans there, leading to a battle between Xenovage and the symbiotes. Meanwhile, Eddie and Venom attempt to escape. Though the symbiotes attack together, Xenovage manages to slaughter them. The hippie family is shocked to see Eddie, and the military also joins the fight against Xenovage. Eddie tells them that aliens do exist. Strickland blasts Xenovage with a bazooka, and Eddie saves the hippie family as they fall from the tower. But despite being destroyed, Xenovage regenerates. Null sends more forces, and with the hippie family threatened, Eddie devises a plan to lure the Xenovage so the helicopter can target them. Venom successfully lures Xenovage, and they manage to blast the creature, but it still refuses to die. Strickland, cornered, is saved by Venom and Dr. Christmas, who slice Xenovage with helicopter blades, though it regenerates once more. Dr. Payne, Strickland, and their allies are at a loss. Eddie and Venom are exhausted and wounded, but must finish this battle, which seems to be a goodbye for them. Venom has an idea to use chemicals to destroy the Xenovage. Venom herds the Xenovage into a chemical tank and asks Strickland to release the acid to melt the Xenovage. Venom removes himself from Eddie's body, sacrificing himself to eliminate the Xenovage. In the end, Eddie can only watch as his friend disappears with the Xenovage. Meanwhile, Dr. Payne breaks a symbiote he had hidden in the lab to save Dr. Christmas. Later, Eddie wakes up in a hospital, finally cleared of all charges. Eddie reminisces about his days with Venom and visits the Statue of Liberty, fulfilling Venom's wish to see it.
Back up.
Not sure what I saw. The hell was that?
You saw it too.
I have no legs.
What?
Wandering the earth with unfinished business? Or was evil simply a man-made concept in the first place?
I'm gonna go check on Butchie.
I want everyone geared up and ready to clear out. Double time.
What do you want?
Dust to dust. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Easy, son. Take it easy.
Hello to all the successful people who enjoy lounging while watching movie plots. Thank you for clicking on this video. This time, Underline Movie will summarize the film titled Ghosts of War, which was released in 2020. The film is set during World War II and tells the story of 5 American soldiers who are terrorized by a mysterious figure. The plot of this film is unique and completely unpredictable. How does the story unfold? Let's find out together. Set during World War II, in 1944, when Germany began occupying France, one night, 5 American soldiers were resting in the forest. However, one of the soldiers, named Chris, was startled by the presence of a mysterious figure in front of him. The mysterious figure pointed a weapon at Chris, but soon after it disappeared. The next morning, Chris and the other soldiers continued their journey to a guard post on a hill 30 miles away from the forest. Chris, a lieutenant, led the small squad. On the way, they heard the sound of a vehicle approaching them. When the vehicle passed by, it hit a landmine that Chris and his men had set. It turned out to be a German military vehicle. Chris and his men began looting the belongings of the German soldiers who had died in the explosion, but there was still one German soldier alive. An American soldier named Butchie challenged the German soldier to a fistfight. At first, the fight was even, but as Butchie was about to be defeated, Chris shot the German soldier.
Back up.
After that, they continued their journey to the guard post. Along the way, they encountered several civilians trying to flee the combat zone. A soldier named Tappert approached one of the civilians, a woman with her child. Tappert gave the woman a jacket and a gold tooth he had taken from a dead German soldier. Then, they continued their journey to the post. That night, Chris and his comrades passed through a town that had been destroyed by battle. The next morning, they arrived at a large house that had been turned into a guard post for French soldiers. The house belonged to a doctor named Hellwig, who had been killed by German soldiers. In the house, they met the American soldiers who had been guarding the post before them. However, for some reason, the previous guards were in a hurry to leave, even though Chris and the others saw plenty of food and drink supplies there.
Let's move.
Chris and his men began exploring the large house, looking for items they could use. Tappert went to the basement and saw a photo of the Hellwig family. Shortly after, some items behind Tappert suddenly moved on their own. Meanwhile, Chris, in another room, saw a burnt carpet and a chair. He also heard strange noises coming from behind a wall. In another room, Butchie heard someone knocking on a door nearby. Butchie tried to open the door, but it was locked. As Butchie walked away, the door suddenly opened by itself. While they were gathered in the living room enjoying the food in the house, they heard footsteps coming from the upper floor. Chris and his men quickly checked the rooms upstairs one by one. Chris and a soldier named Kirk heard strange noises coming from one of the rooms. When they found the room, the door suddenly opened by itself. As they checked the room, they saw something strange.
Not sure what I saw. The hell was that? You saw it too?
That night, a soldier named Eugene mentioned that he had found a German-language journal written by one of the German soldiers when they took over the house. Shortly after, they were startled again by a noise from upstairs that sounded like Morse code. Eugene began deciphering the Morse code, which spelled out the phrase, "I have no legs."
I have no legs.
After that, Chris ordered Tappert to go to the attic to find the best vantage point since Tappert was the sniper of the group. Meanwhile, Eugene went to the basement to read the German soldier's journal that he had found earlier near the Hellwig family photo. Soon after, the candle Eugene was carrying suddenly went out. When Eugene relit the candle, he noticed that the Hellwig family photo had disappeared. Meanwhile, in the attic, as Tappert was scanning the area around the house through his gun sight, suddenly, the next morning, they all gathered for breakfast, but they remained silent and didn't want to talk about their experiences from the previous night. After that, Chris, Eugene, and Kirk relaxed on the balcony, talking about the cruelty of German soldiers toward civilians. Shortly after, Tappert arrived with information he had gathered from the radio. Tappert said a large group of German soldiers would be passing by the house. Tappert suggested that they hide in the forest and wait for the German troops to pass, but Chris refused because they were responsible for guarding the post. Hearing Chris's decision, Tappert decided to clean up the attic to use it as his observation point and asked Eugene to help him clean it.
Come on.
While cleaning the attic, They found an image of a sacrificial altar commonly used in black magic rituals. When they tried to move a wardrobe, the wardrobe door suddenly slammed shut, breaking a few of Eugene's fingers. Tappert also saw in the wardrobe mirror someone hanging behind him. After all the strange events, they finally realized the house was haunted. While trying to gather information from the radio, they heard a voice over the radio warning them that if they left the house, they would all die.
If you leave,
What?
That night, a group of German soldiers arrived and inspected the house. However, Chris and his friends had locked all the doors. The German soldiers assumed the house was abandoned. As they were about to leave, there was a loud banging noise from inside the house. Hearing this, the German soldiers immediately attacked the house. They threw a grenade inside, but Butchie quickly covered the grenade with his body. As the German troops kept coming, Chris and the others split up and hid. Strangely, the German soldiers chasing them started dying on their own. Some were strangled in the bathtub, some burned in the middle of a room, and others were hanged. The entire German force was wiped out. The next morning, they cleaned the house of the German soldiers' bodies. The following night, Eugene told his friends that what happened to the German soldiers was the same thing that happened to the Hellwig family. This was written in the journal of the German soldier that Eugene found in the house. The journal described how, after the German soldiers took over the house, they tortured every member of the Hellwig family in the same way the German soldiers who attacked them had died. The Germans didn't even bury the Hellwig family's bodies. They just piled them up somewhere. Eugene believed this was why the spirits of the Hellwig family were haunting the place. But Chris still didn't believe in any of the supernatural stuff.
Wandering the earth with unfinished business? Or was evil simply a man-made concept in the first place?
I'm gonna go check on Butchie.
Chris went to check on Bucci, who was severely injured by the grenade explosion. The next morning, a shadowy hand touched Bucci's face. After that, Chris and the others found Bucci conscious and shouting that none of it was real. Shortly afterward, Bucci passed away. After all they had been through, they agreed to leave the house, even though it might mean facing a court-martial for abandoning their post.
I want everyone geared up and ready to clear out. Double time.
The next day, after burying Bucci, the four of them left the house on foot. Strangely, along the way, they encountered the same civilians they had met earlier. They continued their journey until they realized they kept walking the same path repeatedly. That night, exhausted, they rested in the forest. While sleeping, Tappert dreamed of seeing the word Vitrulik written on the ground right beside him. The next morning, they resumed their journey but kept ending up on the same road. Feeling trapped, they decided to return to the house to find the bodies of the Hellwig family and give them a proper burial. Chris scattered flour on the floor so they could communicate with the spirits of the Hellwig family to find out where their bodies were. As night fell, they saw footprints in the flour leading toward Chris, and suddenly,
What do you want?
the figure dragged Chris out of the house and took him to a location. Chris's men chased after him until they finally found the bodies of the Hellwig family. As they were about to bury the Hellwig family, Eugene found the missing last page of the journal he had discovered. From that page, Eugene learned that the Hellwig family wasn't French but Afghan. The reason the German soldiers killed them was that they had been hiding Jews in the walls of their house. After that, they buried the Hellwig family and prayed for them.
Dust to dust. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
They found a chest at the place where they found the Hellwig family's bodies. The chest was filled with cigars from Afghanistan. Eugene remembered that the German soldier mentioned something about the chest in his journal, but the entry stopped after they opened it. The journal stated that burying the Hellwig family only gave them the power to come back to life at the same time. Tappert, who had become possessed, performed a ritual over the sacrificial altar drawing. The Hellwig family's corpses suddenly appeared in front of Chris and the others. Chris and the others tried to fight off the attacking corpses of the Hellwig family. When Chris faced the mirror, something unexpected happened.
Easy, son. Take it easy.
It turned out that Chris and his comrades had been sleeping in a secret facility owned by the U.S. military the entire time. Chris also saw that none of his men's bodies were intact, and even he had lost both of his legs. After the doctor explained what had happened to Chris, he remembered when he and his men were stationed in Afghanistan. They were tasked with protecting the Hellwig family from rebel forces. Hellwig was an important doctor to the Afghan government, but at the time, Chris and his men hid and couldn't do anything as they watched rebel forces attack the Hellwig house. The Hellwig family was brutally murdered by rebel, and only Hellwig's wife survived. Afterward, the rebel forces left the Hellwig house. As Chris and his men were about to leave, Hellwig's wife unexpectedly ran toward them with a bomb. After hearing Chris's story, the doctor explained that the device used on them was a new technology that could heal their bodies faster, especially their minds, by running simulations in their subconscious. But when Chris mentioned that they were haunted by ghosts during the simulation, the doctor said that the simulation should have only been about battles during World War II. Chris realized that the entities haunting them were the spirits of the Hellwig family who had been killed by rebel. Chris recalled that after the bomb went off, Hellwig's wife had said the word Vetrulex. Chris knew that Vetrulex was an ancient curse that could give spirits the power to return to life. Chris understood that the Hellwig family wanted him to save them when they were about to be killed by rebel. Because of this, Chris asked the doctor to send him back into his subconscious so he could save the Hellwig family and redeem himself. But unfortunately, when Chris re-entered his subconscious, all of his memories were erased, and he was destined to relive the same events over and over in his subconscious.
What do you want?
See you in the next video. At the rebel group's headquarters in Nepal, a rebel leader was torturing a prisoner. Soon after, the Expendables team arrived to rescue the captive. After successfully infiltrating the location, the rebels deployed a helicopter to eliminate the Expendables. Fortunately, Barney managed to destroy the helicopter by ramming a vehicle into it. Meanwhile, Expendables members inside the rebel headquarters continued their efforts to eliminate the rebels. The rebel leader, realizing their base was under attack, hurriedly took the life of one prisoner. Luckily, the Expendables team arrived just in time. It turned out that the prisoner was an old friend of Barney's named Trenz. Barney questioned Trenz about why he was in that place. Trenz explained that he was captured while trying to save the life of a Chinese billionaire held by the rebel group, recently slaughtered by Barney's team. Surprised by this revelation, Barney learned that the Expendables were also tasked with rescuing the Chinese billionaire. Outside, the rebels had surrounded the Expendables. The team shot at the rebels while climbing up a tower to escape using electrical cables. Trends, having his own plan, chose to go alone. Unfortunately, Barney and Lee fell into the forest while the other members successfully reached the lake. Barney and Lee were immediately surrounded by the rebels. Fortunately, Expendables member Billy, a sharpshooter who had been on a hill since the mission began, managed to save Barney and Lee. The Expendables members who reached the lake and continued their escape by boat were pursued by the rebels. Billy continued to assist his team from a distance while Barney and Lee successfully flew the prepared plane. Barney landed the plane on the water surface to pick up the other members, but a rebel managed to get on board. Learning this, Barney promptly subdued him. The Expendables members boarded the plane brought by Barney. However, rebels had already blocked Barney's plane from the front. Fortunately, their plane was equipped with machine guns, allowing them to easily eliminate the rebels. Afterward, Barney flew the plane back to pick up Billy. That night, the Expendables team arrived in China. Barney assigned Yang to accompany the saved Chinese billionaire home. After Yang dropped off the Chinese billionaire from the plane, the other Expendables members returned to the headquarters to rest.
Flora, I'm homesick. You got it.
The next night, the Expendables team gathered at a bar to celebrate their success. While others were chatting, Billy invited Barney for a private conversation outside the bar. Billy expressed his intention to leave the Expendables at the end of the month because he planned to marry his girlfriend. Hearing this, Barney didn't feel disappointed and respected Billy's decision, acknowledging that he would make the same choice if he were in Billy's position.
All right.
When Barney returned to headquarters, a man named Church, who had previously claimed to be a church master, was already there. At that moment, Church blamed Barney for the mistakes made in the previous mission, where Barney's team had already eliminated the target, gems, targeted by the CIA. As compensation, Church asked Barney to carry out a mission. If Barney refused, he and his team would be thrown into prison. Church explained the mission that Barney's team had to undertake. Church asked the team to retrieve an object inside a Chinese plane shot down in the Albanian mountains. The object was very valuable, and they must not let it fall into the wrong hands. The object also had highly advanced technology, and its access code changed every 2 minutes. If Barney entered the wrong code, the object would explode. Church would send a woman named Maggie to help Barney unlock the access code. Church also asked the Expendables team to protect and safely bring Maggie home. If not, they would be hunted and eliminated by the CIA. After hearing all the threats from Church, Barney had no choice but to undertake the mission. Afterward, Barney met Meggie at a certain location. While talking with Barney, Meggie admitted that she was skilled in combat and not a weak woman. Hearing this, Barney just smiled. The next day, the Expendables team, along with Meggie, flew to the Albanian mountains. Upon reaching their destination, they landed the plane and continued their journey on foot to find the crashed Chinese plane. Midway through the journey, Barney paid tribute to Billy, who was retiring to take the lead. Billy enthusiastically ran ahead of his teammates. Witnessing Billy run with extraordinary stamina, all his teammates were impressed.
Impressive.
After walking quite a distance, they successfully found the crashed Chinese plane. Barney then instructed Billy to find a position so he could protect the team from a distance, while the other members would retrieve the sought-after object from inside the plane. After finding the object, they tried to remove it from the plane. Barney and a member named Keezer were tasked with pulling and holding the door where the object was stored, while Maggie worked to disable the explosive trigger. However, due to something going wrong, the explosive trigger activated on its own. Meggie had only 54 seconds to deactivate it.
I'm losing my grip. You let it go.
No,
know I can do it! Got it!
When they were about to return to the plane after obtaining the object, they were ambushed by a group named Seng, who also wanted the object. They had already captured Billy, who was previously on guard on the hill. The leader of the group was named Villain. Villain threatened to kill Billy if Barney's team did not discard their weapons. Not wanting Billy to be a victim, Barney reluctantly complied with Villain's wishes. Villain then asked the Expendables team to hand over the object they had taken from the Chinese plane, and once again threatened to kill Billy. Meji reluctantly handed over the object, and Lee volunteered to give it to Villain. Lee handed the object by throwing it away. Lee did this to demean the Seng group. Unhappy with Lee's actions, Hector, Villain's confidant, asked Lee to take back the object and hand it over politely. After obtaining the object, they asked the Expendables team to lie on the ground until they left. Not long after, the Seng group was picked up by a helicopter. However, before leaving, they killed Billy first. In a dying state, Billy asked Barney to take a letter from his pocket. Then Billy took his last breath in front of his comrades. Seeing Billy killed before them, Barney felt deeply devastated. Barney then approached Meji and asked about the contents of the object they took from the Chinese plane. Meji explained that the object contained blueprints of a mine. The blueprint showed the position of plutonium in that mine, and the plutonium had to be secured before it fell into the wrong hands. After burying Billy appropriately, Barney read aloud the letter from Billy that he had taken from Billy's pocket. After reading Billy's letter, Barney decided to eliminate the Seng group. When the Expendables team took to the air again, Church contacted Barney and asked if Barney's team had obtained the object he wanted. Still shrouded in anger over Billy's death, Barney responded to Church with a high tone. Barney said that the object had been stolen by a group called Seng, but he asserted that he would recapture the object and avenge his comrade's death. Meanwhile, the Seng group had arrived at the mine where the plutonium was stored. It turned out they also kidnapped adult men from the surrounding village. Villain forced them to work in the mine and didn't hesitate to kill workers he deemed useless. After learning the location of plutonium from the blueprints, Villain instructed Hector to obtain all the plutonium within 3 days because someone was willing to buy it. Meanwhile, the Expendables team successfully traced the Seng group's position from the network of objects containing the mine blueprints. The Expendables team immediately landed their plane and continued their journey using trucks rented from the village residents. That night, Barney and Lee visited a bar to gather more detailed information about Villain's whereabouts. Inside the bar, they noticed many men with tattoos resembling Villain. Barney realized that they were Villain's henchmen. When one of them approached Barney and Lee, they immediately confronted him. After Barney and Lee fought all of Villain's henchmen in the bar, Meji entered to gather more information from them. The next day, the Expendables team continued their journey. After traveling quite a distance, they arrived at an old city, a former Soviet military base. Since it was getting dark, the Expendables team decided to spend the night in the old city. While resting, Barney kept thinking about Billy and feeling guilty about his death. In the morning, Barney marked the location of the Seng group on the map and told his team that they would depart in 10 minutes. However, when Teaser went out to get some fresh air, he saw an armed group approaching them. Barney's team was assisted by a man named Booker, who turned out to be an old friend of Barney. Barney didn't expect to meet his old friend in that place. Barney then gathered information about the Seng group from Booker. After obtaining enough information, Barney asked Booker to help him eliminate the Seng group, but Booker refused as he preferred to work alone. Before parting, Booker suggested that Barney go to a village at the end of the road because the villagers there strongly disliked the Seng group.
Maybe they can help out.
Thanks.
Happy hunting.
The Expendables team then hurried to the village. However, upon arrival, they were mistakenly shot at by armed women who thought they were the Seng group. After the gunfire ceased, Meji approached the women and explained that they were not the Seng group, but a team that aimed to eliminate the Seng group. Hearing this, the women immediately invited the Expendables team into the church. Inside the church, the women expressed their hatred for the Seng group. Previously, the Seng group had come to their village and offered jobs with substantial rewards. However, when their husbands went with the Seng group, they never returned. They also heard rumors that the Seng group would return to forcibly take everyone remaining in the village. The women asked the Barney team to stay in the village and protect them, but Barney refused because they had other business with the Seng group.
Sorry. Let's go.
Sometime later, the Seng group came to the village to take all the remaining residents, even visiting the church to take those hiding there. When they saw a priest in the church, they approached him and asked him to join them. However, the priest turned out to be Lee in disguise. Lee immediately eliminated them. Outside, the other Expendables members also eliminated the Seng group members who came to the village. Meanwhile, at the mine, after Villain obtained all the plutonium, he ordered Hector to eliminate all the workers to erase any traces. Sometime later, the Expendables team arrived at the mine area. From a distance, Barney monitored the enemy's strength and saw that they had anti-aircraft weapons. Seeing this, Lee said that they couldn't possibly penetrate that defense. However, Barney had an idea that would get his team into the mine. The Expendables team returned using their plane to eliminate the guards outside. They bombed the guards outside the mine and then crashed their plane into the mine. Inside the mine, the Expendables team immediately eliminated Villain's henchmen who were about to execute the residents. But they were too late because Villain had already taken all his plutonium. He had also set up several bombs in the mine. After moving away from the mine, Villain immediately detonated all the bombs. Due to the explosion, the Expendables team and the residents were trapped inside the mine. Gunnar, a chemistry graduate from MIT, tried to create a bomb using gunpowder to help them escape the mine. Unfortunately, the bomb he assembled failed to explode, causing him great embarrassment. Not long after, the mine's wall was destroyed from the outside by someone.
I'm back.
Thanks to Trends, who came to help repay Barney's team, the villagers and Barney's team managed to escape the mine. The villagers who had been enslaved by the Seng group were very happy because they could reunite with their families. Church also came to help Barney's team and even brought a helicopter to assist them in eliminating the Seng group. Sometime later, Villain led his group in a convoy carrying all the plutonium to the airport. But from the front, Barney's team had already blocked them. Villain instructed some of his henchmen to move all the plutonium onto the plane, while he, Hector, and the remaining henchmen would face Barney's team. When the Seng group was about to leave the airport to face Barney's team attacked first. Booker also came to help Barney's team. One by one, the members of the Seng group were eliminated by Barney's team. Villain, feeling cornered, tried to escape, but Barney immediately pursued him. While Barney's team continued to try to eliminate the Seng group, Hector also tried to escape, but Lee tried to stop him and eliminated him. When Barney was chasing Villain, he was surprised by Maggie's appearance. Barney asked Maggie not to follow him and to stand guard outside. Meanwhile, he would pursue Villain alone. Barney also instructed Maggie to eliminate Villain if he failed to do so. Then Barney entered the room where Villain was hiding. In the room, Barney and Villain engaged in a shootout, but when Villain ran out of bullets, he challenged Barney to fight hand-to-hand. Hearing this challenge, Barney accepted. At the beginning of the fight, Barney struggled against Verlaine, but when Verlaine began to provoke Barney with Billy's death, Barney's anger peaked. Barney took a chain from above his head and brutally beat Verlaine until he was helpless. Eventually, Barney successfully eliminated Verlaine with the knife that had taken Billy's life. Meggie, waiting outside, felt relieved after seeing Barney reappear. After all these events, Church gave Barney a small plane so that Barney and his team could return home. The plane was a gift for Barney's team because they successfully recaptured the plutonium that needed to be secured.
Take care.
Before returning to headquarters, Barney sent a box containing money and a letter to Billy's girlfriend in France. On the way back home, Barney and his team drank together to remember Billy and give their final respects to him.